he got the label to first go like, well, our compromise will be we'll flip a coin over it. And Roger's like, why the fuck would I flip a coin over something that I fully own?
Yeah, what is this? No Country for Old Men?
Welcome to 1001 Album Complaints, the show where lifelong friends, musicians, and guys who show their love through gentle but pointed mockery tell the backstory on the most influential albums of all time as chronicled in Robert Dimery's book 1001 Albums You Must Hear Before You Die. Now, if you don't know today's album super well or not at all, no worries. We're going to guide you through it. We're going to be playing the song clips while we dive into the backstory of this artist and this album. And along the way, we're going to be breaking these songs down musically and culturally to offer you both our praise and our nitpicky complaints as musicians. And at the end of all that, we are going to vote on whether this album is really a must-listen before you die. Yes, we're actually going to vote on today's episode. I promise. We fielded lots of emails about voting last week and about how important it is to our ethos and how we shouldn't take it for granted. We're going to vote. If you are a regular listener, thank you and welcome back. And if you're new to the show, let me give you our standard disclaimer, which I'm hoping you also heard a version of in part 1. You see, we are musicians ourselves. We understand from experience, painful and vulnerable experience, how difficult it is to make truly great art. So we come from a place of love and respect for the craft, but we also love nitpicking and we also love complaining, as the title of our show suggests. So we are not super fans. Okay, maybe we are. We might have revealed that in the last episode.
Not normally,
but we can still laugh about how the music we love got made and make some fun of it along the way. All that said, we've also done our homework, and we plan to give you a well-researched backstory here, sprinkled quite liberally with our jovial irreverence.
Well said.
My name's Rob. I've been playing, writing, performing, and recording music since I was a teenager, and I'm here to help us understand what producer Bob Ezrin called Roger Waters' almost Teutonic cruelty. No, but we'll get into that. But we're here to finish our story of The Wall, Pink Floyd's last theatrical gasp of a double album. Now let's kick things off with some music, and let's play a clip of the most successful song from the back half of the album. It is called Comfortably. Things off and introduce our cast of complainers with a extra mean, extra snarky tweet length review, and I'm going to send it first to Adam.
Hey everybody, this is Adam, and my tweet is, The Wall is an album that's less commercially successful than its older brother, Dark Side of the Moon. Its outward appearance also falls short, and let's be honest, it's pretty bloated. That's right, it's the Stephen Baldwin of the Pink Floyd catalog.
Nice. Baldwin catching strays.
Oh, man. Excellent. Okay, and now we're going to go next to Alan.
Okay, I think I can finally empathize with the main character of the story because, like Pink, I too went completely insane by the time this album was over.
Nice.
Tom, what do you got?
Side 2 of this album is very much like me after the 6 beers that I'm going to drink during the recording of this episode. Rambling, bloated, barely coherent, and in desperate need of therapy.
This is Rob here. I wrote, Roger Waters jumps out ahead of the now extremely popular jukebox musical trend. The Wall's got jazz hands, cringeworthy theatrical storytelling, overt fascism play, and somehow also the band's biggest hits. All this needed was someone bellowing the word defecate at me. Oh, wait.
Nicely done.
You know, as an extra special treat for our 250th episode, I suppose this is now 251, we have solicited mean tweets from you, our beautiful audience, and we have them in our complainers' hands tonight to read to us. And I'm going to throw the microphone first to Adam.
Listener Terry writes in with the tweet of, This double album and movie and seemingly never-ending nostalgia stage show offers Floyd fans the following: 2 sides too many, 1 decent solo, and the lukewarm efforts of 3 guys who would really rather be anywhere else than stuck in a studio for months acting as both Roger Waters' session players and his surrogate therapists.
Lukewarm, guys. Who's he referring to here? Us or
Nice
the
one,
rapists?
Terry.
We'll get there. Alan, you're up next.
All right. Listener Chris writes in with his tweet. How does an insanely wealthy man in his mid-30s manage to write both the magnum opus of mommy issues, rail against the excess of celebrity, take down his home country's repressed culture, and still manage to be every 15-year-old boy's high school yearbook quote for the next 30 years?
I will concede to have scrawled a lyric from The Wall on one of my notebooks in high school.
I think I said this on Patreon, but I used something from Dark Side as my senior yearbook quote, of course. Yes.
Nice.
Yeah.
What was it?
About being so old. It was you run to catch up with the sun, but it's sinking and racing around to come up behind you again from time. It's like, oh, I'm 17. I'm so old.
deep.
Oh my God. Life is over.
Hilarious.
Jesus Christ. I was a whiny little bitch in high school.
I've got the next one here. This is from previous guest of the show, a friend of the show, an excellent tweeter, generally speaking, Brian, who writes, if I'm going to listen to a pretentious rock opera about a troubled savant who fails at basic human interaction, I at least want him to be good at pinball.
Nicely done.
Nice.
Nicely done.
That's pretty good.
And lastly, to round out the listener tweets, we're going to send it over to Tom.
Thank you, Rob. Listener Matt writes, a bloated, self-indulgent, drawn-out mess from past-it, middle-aged white blokes. But enough about Rob and the boys. This album sucks too.
Oh, burn.
Let's get into our impressions of the second side. I'll just kick things off by saying this side is both weaker, but it also has some of the most emotionally resonant moments sort of hidden within it. So there's plenty to like here, but it is definitely the weaker half of the album.
I agree. And I think I've heard people say that they think side 2 is better. And I think it has to be because it has more of the singles, but it certainly has the emotional peak of the album. I think Comfortably Numb, it's safe to say, is in that space. I think that song is fairly unimpeachable in my mind, as cliche as it sounds.
Sure.
Its placement on the record is perfect. The scene in the movie hits extremely hard. Like, I think that all works. But goddamn, it limps to the finish, man. It really does.
Yeah, the last side is really the big problem. And I'm not willing to call it unnecessary because you need to close it out. You need to close out the story.
The story.
But there is a certain amount of excess and I think a lack of subtlety that plagues the end of the record and makes me just not want to listen specifically to that last side.
Yeah. This side has my favorite song on the album, which we will get to as we talk about. So I actually think that the highs are pretty damn high on this side of the album. I think that the two songs that are, one song was like primarily written by Gilmour and the other Comfortably Numb, and the other song Run Like Hell, which was co-written Gilmour and Waters. I think those songs kind of stand out like a sore thumb on this side of the album. Like they don't quite mesh as well tonally with the rest of the song, and not tonally like subject matter wise, but like just in terms of how the actual songs sound. I think that they kind of stick out a little bit, but they're also great songs. But there are some absolutely terrible songs on both the third and fourth sides of this album that I always picture the other members of the band like listening back and be like, are we fucking doing this? We're really including this one? Okay. All right, Raj, your thing, man. It's your thing, Raj. I guess we'll include it.
You guys are making me feel better because, again, coming into this cold, having never listened to all, 85 minutes or something, the second disc, I started to not lose interest, but it became harder. And I thought, well, maybe it's just because I've been going at this now for over an hour. But you guys are making me feel a little bit better that it is partially the material and maybe not just the length. That's what she said. That is the problem.
She's never said that.
Nobody's ever said that to me.
I mostly agree with Tom. I think my personal highlight from the entire album is here. So I guess in that sense, the highs are higher. But there's some stuff where we'll talk about it when we talk about the songs, where I just think they missed the boat or they went too far in a direction they maybe shouldn't have gone. They got a little too obsessed with singles, perhaps. And, another thing we didn't talk too much about, and we're going to talk in the story tonight about Rick Wright effectively departing the band, even though he played both on this record and on the subsequent tour, but his presence is way less felt, I think, throughout this record. Yes, there are keyboards, but Through the other Pink Floyd material, I think you hear much more of his creativity in terms of shaping atmospheres. And also, I should mention that David Gilmour plays a bunch of the keyboard parts throughout The Wall. And, other people kind of step up and play. Bob Ezrin plays some keyboards. So while keyboards are still there and they're still a big part of it, I do think like a component of the creativity that might have helped this side is missing.
Well, and you start to see why Roger Waters' solo shit is not nearly as good as Pink Floyd, because even if you take out one variable that's probably not the most prominent one, but essential nonetheless, that's when you start to see it get gets watered down. Pun definitely not intended.
Oh, well done.
So not intended.
Nice. All right.
Yes.
One thing I will say, or at least a defense of how chaotic this part of the album is that, and I'm sure you get to this in the story, that in the narrative, this is when things start to break down for the protagonist and it becomes very weird and muddy and chaotic. So I guess it sort of reflects that, but that would be maybe a little bit of a cop out for some of the songs.
I think it's fair, and it certainly doesn't, I don't find it unlistenable or anything. But yeah, let's be clear, right? The central tenet here is that in the storyline, the rock star has done too many drugs, become too isolated, become suicidal, and ultimately has a complete mental breakdown. And there's echoes of the very real Syd Barrett story, who had a mental breakdown, but was still effectively pushed on stage, even when he was clearly not all there because they were a product. Pink Floyd still feels some echoes of that. That's sort of what Comfortably Numb is about, like get him on stage, whatever it takes. And even though, of course, Roger Waters is writing a lot of this stuff, so it's somewhat autobiographical to him, but then you hear more about Rick Wright's situation. At this point, he's going through a divorce. He seems to be the one with a drug problem, even though maybe it's not that crazy bad. And he's the most depressed for sure, and this might track him. But, apart from that, the central tenet here seems to be that violence, fascist, power-hungry dominance stems from feelings of isolation and insecurity. And I agree, generally speaking, right? It's an interesting topic to explore. I recently watched the movie Taxi Driver, rewatched it, and it's more or less about the same thing, how this person gets more and more estranged from normal society. They live in an echo chamber, and they have an extremely warped perception of that's difficult to cross that barrier and communicate into.
Luckily, Rob, we don't need to know anything about that in our modern American society. These themes mean nothing to us.
Correct. It is still relevant, and so I think that part of it's cool, but I see that they just, in my opinion, they just made some poor choices and things in poor taste, honestly, that still, they sounded cringe to me when I first heard them in the 90s. They've aged even worse 30 years on now. And I just don't think they were necessary to get across the full narrative arc of the story. And I'll talk about my thoughts on that like when we get to those songs. But that's part of where I think they go wrong.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay, let's get into the rest of the story. The real fun, the meat, the drama of the Pink Floyd story. The breakup is coming up, baby. But before we get back to that story, we're going to take a quick break. And we're back. Now, as you recall, where we left the band, they had just realized that they'd been scammed out of lots of money. Oof. And on top of that, they were in deep tax debt to the UK. So they decided to exile themselves and exploit a popular tax loophole, which was living abroad, to finish the album. They have now arrived in a studio outside of Monaco. It's in the south of France. Monaco is its own country. This was a little closer to Monaco, but this studio was in France. Now, the studio was quite tiny. It had previously been a restaurant, and they had just cleared the tables and chairs out of the room. And apparently, as soon as Pink Floyd arrived, the first thing they did was rip up a bunch of carpet that was over top of a big marble floor. And they ended up loving the sound of that room with the marble floor, which you get a lot of.
Really? That's kind of crazy. Okay.
They also ended up bringing a ton of their own gear along because the gear at this place was not going to suffice. But the real issue is that they're holed up together. They're away from home. They're working on a massive make or break project, and the cracks in the band are really starting to show. Now, I made a joke about it earlier in episode 1 that Nick Mason, the drummers tend to stay away from all this interband drama. But specifically in this case, he missed out a lot of this drama because he finished early and he just dipped out. And one of the things he did was to go race in the 24 hours of Le Mans and place second in his class.
Peace.
What?
Yeah, he's super into car racing. He's kept that hobby up throughout his life.
No way.
He owns an estimated 40 Ferraris.
That guy just hates getting laid, huh? Looks like professional race car driver. And you wonder, they're having money problems? Yeah.
I mean, now. I mean, he's continued to race his entire life. I saw a picture with him. He even has a racing car that is painted like the wall bricks theme on the car. So anyway, David Gilmour's there. He's pushing back on Roger's ideas. And, for the most part, that dynamic works because although everyone, including in the band, agrees that Roger Waters is a gifted lyricist, it's generally thought and agreed upon that musically he's significantly less gifted, right? It seems like even Roger Waters would have agreed to that in that moment to a certain extent, then that he actually needs David Gilmour to make this work. And he kind of knows that, and that's why he allows David Gilmour to be a producer on this and to have a say. Now, the other side of the coin, though, is that leaves one band member to bully, whose name is Rick Wright, the keyboard player. He's an easy target now. And from what I read, it sounds like these guys never had a good relationship. I mean, this has now been a band for 14 years, and I think they kind of always just tolerated each other. They were never buds, it seems like. And things have now gotten worse. It sounds like Rick Wright was sitting around the wall sessions, barely doing or saying anything, such that later, when he asked again for his official producer credit, Roger flipped out on him. Now, Bob Ezrin, who is our outside producer brought in to help with the records, he's there trying to play peacemaker. He can see the band dynamic a bit more clearly. He knows that Rick Wright needs positive reinforcement to do good work. He works best with some kind of back and forth. That's how it's traditionally been in this band because they've been writing the songs together. They've been working in this very collaborative way. It takes longer, to be clear, right? And this was different because Roger Waters comes in with these very fleshed out concepts and demos, but Rick Wright is not a self-starter. It seems like he can't get that much done alone. And as I mentioned at the top, he is also struggling personally, somewhat with drugs, somewhat with a divorce. And also the last piece of it is that his kids are a little bit older than the other guy's kids. So while everyone else was able to bring their kids to France and gets to see them on a regular basis, Rick Wright's kids are back home in school in England. And that's obviously bumming him out as well.
That's rough.
So all this adds up to the fact that the band is rarely in the studio at the same time. And by the way, Bob Ezrin, I said he was a peacemaker, but he also was getting his jibes in too, where he wanted points on the record. He wanted to negotiate a better position for himself for the work he was doing, to the point where at some point in the process, he had badges printed up that read NOPE, which stands for no points for Ezrin.
What?
Wow.
But look, think of it from Roger Waters' perspective. Again, I'm not Roger Waters is almost certainly an asshole, and he's probably being an asshole in almost all his interactions. But he does have a perspective here, which is they're on a tough deadline. They're in debt, right? And he is over babysitting these other band members like Rick Wright or anyone else in the band, right?
Look, I mean, for as much as I've always resented the assholes in all the bands that I've ever played in, they're generally the ones that actually make the shit happen. So, the gig that you show up to and play, the songs that you learn and show up to play, somebody's making that happen. And it's hard to wrangle humans. It's especially hard to wrangle fucking musicians who, for some goddamn reason, are the flakiest bunch of people out there. So I can sympathize with that a little bit.
Roger Waters isn't doing any drugs at this time, so he's probably not a fun hang even after taping is done.
And they're not sure at this point if this is going to be a success, right? This is a gamble, right? This is not like everybody's clamoring for them.
It's somewhere in between, right? Because they're deep in debt. They needed to be a big hit. Animals was not really a big hit in the way that Dark Side and even Wish You Were Here, its follow-up, were. That said, they are a huge band, and they will sell some amount of records no matter what they put out.
Okay, right.
One question I have, though, in all this is, if this was such a gamble, why the double album? Because that just adds to your overhead, to your opportunity cost. To me, that feels riskier to do that than to make one just like thick killer record in my mind.
It was all Roger Waters was in full control of the concept, and this was his vision. And I don't get the sense that I think they did have enough power as a band where the label was not giving them a lot of oversight and they were giving them a lot of budget. So maybe gamble is the wrong word for it. It was a gamble in the sense that they wanted their career to continue. And of course, we're hoping for another huge success like Dark Side. But the reality is they must know they're going to sell 1 million copies of this record almost no matter what it is.
Sure. Okay.
And in a way, they're actually trying to aim bigger, right? That's sort of partly what they're thinking. Also, we talked about them being in financial trouble. I don't have all the numbers on this, but if I understand the premise correctly, they leave the UK for a year and the royalties from their previous records roll in and basically make up that shortfall of money. I mean, they're making a lot of money as a band.
And the next thing you know, dude, that's 40 Ferraris.
So they're not going to be busking at any point.
Right. They're not going to go, they're not in danger of going broke, right? But they are kind of at a frayed edge of what this band means. And of course, a hit will... It turns out it won't help, but, maybe it could help, right? So Columbia Records, their record label in America, they're seeing dollar signs after it's been a few years now without a Pink Floyd album. And they want this album delivered in time for Christmas 1979. So they call up and they offer an incentive to finish the record so that it can be on shelves by Christmas. And for that, they will bump the band's percentage on the album.
Wow.
Band loves this idea. Who wouldn't?
Yeah, right.
And I mean, they are in debt, right? They make some calculations. It's going to be tough, but they realize the only way to make the deadline is to do a couple things. One, to rent out a second studio in France to track simultaneously across these two. Again, they weren't really in the studio at the same time anyway. And two, to cut their summer vacation short, to cut their band vacation short where they've all split apart from each other to go back and see their families. Now, everyone is on vacation when Roger Waters gets that call and agrees quickly, except for Rick Wright. He doesn't want to come back a week and a half, 2 weeks early, whatever it is, cut the time with his family short. And this is the final straw for Roger Waters. He realizes that at that point, most of the keyboards are as of yet unrecorded. There was really a ton to do. And Roger, it sounds like spontaneously, lays down an ultimatum. Either you leave the band or I release this entire album as a solo project under Roger Waters.
Could Gilmore have no say in that?
Right. That's not unilateral, it sounds like.
I don't know all the details. And, there's been a lot of conflicting accounts and people even changing how they see this going down and the reason for this. But it does sound like Roger was somewhat strategically trying to get this guy Rick Wright out of the band. He was over it. Now, to be fair, Gilmore, this is what I heard from Gilmore. Again, he's usually a much more tempered person. He's on vacation himself in Ireland when he hears about this. And he absolutely thinks Roger is being an immense asshole. But he also agrees that Richard is being a stick in the mud, that Rick Wright is being a stick in the mud, and that he's not contributing that much. And his position is something like, look, man, he's saying to Rick, he's like, if you want to stay in the band, you're my brother, I will back you up. But it is also true that you haven't been doing much. Like, I get it. You're depressed. You're going through some shit, but you haven't brought any material to the table. You haven't been involved in the conversations. If this is you being passive aggressive about wanting to quit, then now is your moment. Because we cannot afford to lose this album.
Well, the other thing, from Rick Wright's standpoint, he's like, what? You bump up the points that the band's going to get on the album, but I'm not getting much of a cut anyway because I'm not a producer and I'm not a writer on any of these things. So you're telling me to come in and cut my vacation short so that you guys can make more money and not necessarily I can make a lot more money.
Yeah, right. Fair enough. But what Rick Wright does is he negotiates his own exit from the band that he helped found. And in that agreement, it is stated that he still gets to play on the album and on the tour. And they all agree, and they don't tell the press anything. And as a result, like I said, I think you hear some lack of keyboard atmospheric contributions. He does play on a bunch of the tracks, exclusively keyboards, but guys like Gilmore and Roger Waters and even Bob Ezrin also step up and play some of the keyboards.
Well, in a way, if he's being hired to essentially be a hired gun for the tour, you could argue that there's some measure of stability in that, because if it all goes belly up with how big they want the shows to be, at least he's still getting a steady paycheck. I mean, it's
foreshadowing. Yeah. He is the only person who makes money on the tour.
Oh, shit.
Because he is a salaried player. But we're going to get to that. So after that, Pink Floyd books that second studio called Mirabelle. This is where Roger ends up doing most of the vocal takes. In September of that year, 1979, the recordings moved to LA. We're in the last stages now. This is where most of the sound effects were done. This includes things like Roger Waters recording ambient effects along Hollywood Boulevard and doing that real telephone call to the operator like we talked about in Young Lust, and breaking plates and recording it, stuff like that. And that brings us to our favorite segment on the show. It's The Wall by the Numbers.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Woohoo!
Let us talk about what this did, what this wrought upon the world. Let's start with the first number, $700,000. That is the budget for The Wall. Adjusted to today's dollars, that is $3 million.
Holy shit.
That's one TLC video in the 90s.
So it was indeed expensive, but we're
Wow.
going to see shortly that will be paid back in spades. But the next number I want to throw out to you is 2, as in 2 obvious inaccuracies on the original pressing's liner notes. You see, they're rushing to get this album on the shelves, and at the last possible second, they make 2 changes. One is there's a song called What Shall We Do Now? The song that was originally intended to precede Young Lust. It gets cut for time. This is because vinyl record sides can only hold so much just physically. And they swap in empty spaces, which we talked about on the last episode, which was originally sequenced right before Another Brick in the Wall 3. And secondly, Bob Ezrin convinces Roger that side 3 needs a stronger opener. So they pull Hey You from its original spot at the end of the side, right after Comfortably Numb, and they put it in the front. So that means the second half was originally going to start with Is There Anybody Out There? And if you have a first pressing, as I happen to have, you will see the tracks in a different order in the lyrics, and you will see lyrics for a song that is not on the record.
Interesting.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I think both of those work, though, in a way. I think obviously Hey You works great, but I think the other one would have worked very well also.
Yeah, the Hey You call was smart, because starting with Is There Anybody Out There? That feels like an interstitial piece, like by design. That was a weird call.
Is there anybody out there? Yeah.
It does, but it reflects the narrative of the psychosis, I think, starting to happen. So, yeah, maybe more artistically than sensibly.
Maybe. And so they had already printed the jackets when they made these choices, and they changed it for the actual vinyl printing, and then that's how we get that, and it was corrected later.
Well, yeah, because if they're trying to get it on the shelf for Christmas, it was like November 30 when it got released, right? There was not a lot of time to get that out there. It was cutting it pretty close.
There was not a lot of time, so that was a fun little mistake. That song, What Shall We Do Now, is in the film. So that was, I'd never heard this anecdote before, but of course I've seen the film where they do add a couple new songs in, or songs that aren't on the album. They deleted some songs from the album, but that's one of them. And I always kind of wondered about that, but yeah, that's what happened there. Next number, 30 million, as in copies sold worldwide. That makes The Wall Pink Floyd's second best-selling record after Dark Side of the Moon. It went platinum in 18 different countries. And of course, it represents the last time all 4 of the classic Pink Floyd lineup were in the studio together. It caps off a run of 5 absolutely classic and important rock and roll albums, starting with Metal, then Dark Side, then Wish You Were Here, then Animals. And yes, I'm skipping Obscured by Clouds. It's a soundtrack. It's still good, but I don't think it counts.
But don't forget Final Cut, man. That's
No, it ends that run, and it is Pink Floyd's final album on the 1001 list.
Let me ask you a question, Rob, because I was looking up the sales history of The Wall, and it goes platinum right away, basically March 13th of 1980, continues to sell, goes diamond in 95, 11 times platinum in May of 1997. And then 22 times platinum in September of 1997. What the fuck happened where they sold 11 million copies of it in like 5 months?
Our generation discovered it, and then it went.
I think Adam's right on, and I think it's probably related to a big push from the record label to remaster it, repackage it, and get it out the door to us.
11 million CD, and that's back in the CDs were like the most profitable things that bands could possibly sell, right? They cost the least to produce and cost the most to buy, and you sell 11 million of them. What, 25 years after you put the album out? 28 years after you put the album out?
Not only that, but this is easy to forget now, right? But we lived through it in the CD era. everything was about remastering old stuff. And admittedly, it had to be remastered for this new digital format, but that was also an excuse for record labels to effectively re-release the album and get people excited about it and get oldsters potentially excited about hearing something different, which, for the record, I've never heard anything different on a remaster. I'm apparently unable to notice that.
No.
Totally.
And lastly, the last number is number 1, as in, this is the best-selling double album of all time. I am excluding greatest hits comps like the Eagles, which, if counted, would, I believe, be the only one above this. But it sold more than Songs in the Key of Life, Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness, Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, and yes, Adam, the White Album.
Yeah, I assumed as much. Yeah. Wow.
So
that's wild.
It did its job, and handily.
Whew.
And listen, before we get back to our story and talk about these songs, I just want to thank everyone for listening. It's been a wild ride, these 250 episodes. We love getting together. We love talking about this music. We love researching it and learning fun little tidbits, and we're doing it every week. We get the energy to do it every week because you continue to listen and send us awesome emails and great listener tweets and all that. So thank you. Okay. Back to our story. So when the Floyd did finally turn in the finished recordings, Columbia was disappointed. They weren't expecting a double album. They were not expecting a rock opera.
Can you imagine that? Here you go. Why are there 2 of them? Oh, no.
And they did initially suggest that Roger's cut should be reduced for turning in a double album. And they fought for a bit. And maybe this is a surprise, maybe it's not, but Roger can be a little intransigent. So he got the label to first go like, well, our compromise will be we'll flip a coin over it. And Roger's like, why the fuck would I flip a coin over something that I fully own?
Yeah, what is this, No Country for Old Men?
So the label relented and released it as is. The Wall came out, as Tom said, November 30th, 1979, preceded just a little bit by their first single, Another Brick in the Wall Part 2, which became a smash hit. As we said on last week's episode, it is Pink Floyd's only number 1 hit ever. It was a number 1 hit in the UK and the US. And to say that the record label was surprised would be an understatement because, again, we said it briefly, but in a weird way, making this much longer album, the band also made shorter, more single-ready songs, and counterintuitively, this has many of their most recognizable radio singles on it. Yeah. Not just Brick in the Wall, but Comfortably Numb, Hey You, Run Like Hell, all of which were subsequently released as singles.
How does a record label, could you be that unaware of what a major band is working on? I mean, is there so much autonomy that you don't even check in on what's happening?
Yeah, didn't they put $1 million out basically to them? Like
the idea that you would just receive this fully baked product that is entirely different than you're expecting seems kind of insane.
Maybe they're just like, listen, this Roger guy's real fucking tough to work with. Let's just not even bother with it. Just he's going to give us something. Dipshits will buy it, whatever. Yeah.
I don't know exact details. Maybe it was part of their contract that they had negotiated to be left alone, but they were a huge, huge band. Again, Dark Side was a smash hit. It stayed on the charts for years and years. It was still on the charts when this was getting recorded. So they had a lot of weight to throw around. Okay. Now, let's talk about the tour. Recall that for the live show, Roger's first idea was to literally have the band play behind a wall for most of the set. Gilmour is like, no, dude, we're obviously not going to do that. Roger Waters' second idea is to have the concert inside a giant inflatable worm. I'm not kidding.
Is it like a retelling of Dune or something like that? Just fucking Shia LaBeouf.
And his whole pitch was that we'll translate this deflated worm concert venue to each new city by helicopter, and we'll use that as an advertisement for the show coming to your town. Wow. They sketched this concept. They planned fairly extensively. This would have fit 3,000 people. So it is related to what you talked about earlier, Tom, in previous episode, is that they wanted to really shrink down the size of the show as best they could to be more intimate with the audience. But ultimately, they realized that various city permits and FAA regulations and logistics drove them to believe this was impossible.
Right.
Rob, just as a point to come back to something that you said, because you were like, oh, Dark Side of the Moon was still on the charts when they were recording The Wall. And I was like, that's kind of intense. Dark Side of the Moon spent over 1,000 total weeks on the charts, and it was continuously on the Billboard Top 100 for 741 consecutive weeks, which is 14 years. 1973 to 1988, it was charting still. That's fucking insanity.
That's pretty wild, man.
Who's still left to buy it at that point?
Well, every successive generation, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, every kid discovers weed at some point. You know?
So instead, their third idea is they're going to book these 20,000 or less theaters or amphitheaters, whatever that is. So around 25% of the size they were playing on the previous tour. Still sounds like a hell of a lot, of course, but it's about a quarter of what they were doing on that previous tour where Roger Waters spit in that guy's face. And the other idea, of course, is to construct the wall brick by brick during the first half of the show and then knock it down triumphantly at the end. Now, this idea might seem straightforward, but it's not. It doesn't. There's a lot to consider. They hire multiple engineers to figure all this out. One guy is turning Gerald Scarf's drawings into puppets. Another is figuring out how to build this wall, what materials. We're talking blueprints galore. It all has to crumble down in front of the audience very easily and safely at the end of the show, but it also has to sustain people standing on top of it and things like that. It's a challenging thing.
Oh, jeez, right.
It's like the original Burning Man.
And then loaded into a truck 600 times, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. So this show sounds so freaking cool, and like we totally missed out. The full wall in the live show ends up being 10 meters high, that's 33 feet high, and about 80 meters across, that's 260 feet across. They're using 450 individual bricks, which were designed to be sturdy enough to sustain not only this wall, but parts of the set are coming out of the wall, on top of the wall. But they also had to, like was just mentioned, they had to fold flat for transport to the next city. So this was quite an undertaking. That's before they get in there and start rehearsing the lighting cues, the sound effects cues, building and tearing down the wall, massive puppets with spotlights for eyes, and a full projected visual on a 30-foot circular screen.
Jeez.
Wow.
Wait, so when this wall is up, is nobody able to see them at all? And what's happening to the sound?
We'll talk about a couple of the things they do with that shortly, because there's some cool, interesting tidbits that I read about how the different beats in the show. So we'll get to that. So David Gilmour is named the official music director of the tour. He calls all the cues and the visuals. Roger Waters is in charge of cueing all the sound effects. This is in addition to playing the music, obviously. They start the tour in LA, and because the whole concept involved is this live show from the start, here's a few of the things I learned. So the wall is sort of partially built when the audience first comes in. The loudspeakers are playing music from the 1940s, which is very similar to the beginning of the Hollywood movie. And then an MC comes out to introduce the band. But the band walks on stage in black uniforms and purposely interrupts the MC and cuts him off with the first song, which is In the Flesh. Then, just like on the record, at the end of In the Flesh, a giant model airplane comes out over the audience, crashes into the wall on stage, sparks fly everywhere. The band on stage freezes. They freeze frame in position. Then the stage lowers, and the real Pink Floyd is there in the back playing the next song.
What?
Whoa.
That's fucking awesome. That's so cool.
That's crazy.
You see, the first band was a decoy band wearing, get this, latex Pink Floyd face masks to fool the crowd.
What?
Did one of the guys have to get a prosthetic chin to be Roger Waters?
Well, actually, you guys might have seen this, because I had seen this image either as an album cover or something. It's like 4 imprints of their face that look like masks, and I had just seen that as part of their marketing efforts. I never knew what it was, but that's literally what this decoy band was wearing to look like the dudes.
Damn, dude, that's crazy cool. Yeah, I'm like Googling images now, like trying to find.
And they're
this.
having money problems?
Yeah, and I think we touched on this in the previous episode, but all this kind of stemmed from some of those original ideas where when Roger was envisioning them playing behind the wall the entire time, he was like, wait a minute, the whole band could just be studio killers and play behind the wall, and I could just cash checks from my couch. This is great. So, very unsatisfying as an audience member, but you got to see the brilliance of that ploy that never was.
Oh, absolutely.
By the way, on the very first night they did this, the fake plane crash set the house curtains on fire, and everyone had to be evacuated, and the show was postponed for like a couple hours.
It was like that Great White Show, or everyone just catching on fire.
Oh, gee.
No one was hurt. No one was hurt, but it was like they were pulling this together kind of at the last minute, and it was a lot to coordinate, and it was really challenging, right?
So, yeah, I mean, they're pissed off about drunk audiences, and then they had to tell the audience to go stand out in the parking lot for 3 hours before they got back in. Those people were probably faced by the time they got back in.
I feel like next time I'm struggling to write a song, I'm going to think about all of this shit. Be like, man, you're pathetic. You can't even do this.
So the fake or decoy band stays on stage. They add various extra instrumentation to the songs, which clearly need it. Like I said, there are these 30-foot tall puppets designed with spotlights for eyes to represent the teacher and the mother and the wife. And they walk around on stage, and you see that in the movie in the form of animation, and they're based on drawings by the animator. The screen is showing that same animation from Gerald's scarf, which again appears in the movie, but they had to add to, of course. This is all synced up to a click track. There's no improvisation in this show. Everything is on time because of all the sound effects, all the crazy cues. The animation is in time with the music, et cetera, et cetera. And as far as I can tell, this is 100% analog.
No, damn.
That's wild.
Yeah, so there's nobody's like firing off things in response to something else that the other members are doing. It's all like on a tape that's running.
I believe so.
Whew. That's craziness.
There's a couple other cool things that I read about in the show that speak to Alan's earlier question of what did they do when the wall was up. So in the second half, one of the songs we're going to talk about, there's a mini hotel room built into the wall itself, like a platform that's 2 stories up with a TV and a chair, kind of like what you see in the movie where Roger would come out, sit down, and sing Nobody Home. Shortly after that, during Comfortably Numb, it starts with a spotlight just on Roger Waters singing out in front of the now completed wall. And then when the chorus drops, a second spotlight kicks on for David Gilmour. He's standing on top of the wall. Surprise, right? And he's singing, and then he hits the iconic solo, which would have been awesome.
Badass.
That's fucking badass. That sounds so cool, man. God damn.
That is so cool.
And then at the end, the entire wall comes down. The whole band comes out to the front, and they play Outside the Wall, the last song, on acoustic instruments. For all this, they did 31 shows.
I can't tell if that's a lot or not enough, because but it feels like a lot to do that performance.
Yeah.
But not enough to justify it, I would imagine.
Yeah, and especially given that they're playing to a quarter of the audience they were playing to the last time, and the record is a hit. The audience is, of course, going crazy for it. It's a success in terms of the audience, and the people that you hear in interviews talk about it. They're like, this is such a necessary companion to the album, is seeing this show. Clearly, they were conceived with each other in mind. It's very important. Sadly, we will never see it, or at least not see it in its original glory. But as I mentioned, on a money sense, it's a huge failure. They lose between 400 and 600,000 pounds. This results in the fun fact that Rick Wright is the only member of Pink Floyd to make money on the tour because he is making a salary.
Jesus.
That's awesome.
Now, to close things out, we just want to talk briefly about the Hollywood film. It's the last piece of the Wall's multimedia puzzle. Originally, the plan was to make it something more close to a concert film, showing the live show on the big screen, right, with live footage from the tour. And it was going to have all this concert footage, plus reuse some of the animation, and then shoot some interstitial scenes with the band or something. But they found that filming the live show was insanely difficult. Again, there's technological limitations. The lighting was not conducive to the camera in the same way that it was conducive for the audience, and Roger refused to sacrifice anything about the live show to make the film.
Man.
So they rethought it. After testing Roger Waters as the lead actor and realizing that he is not a good actor.
And hard to look at.
Yes.
They found another not good actor who is Boomtown Rats frontman Bob Geldof, who apparently turned it down multiple times, saying he both did not like the story and in particular did not like Pink Floyd.
Is it punk? Yes.
Bob Geldof also, he's not a looker.
He's also the guy who wrote I Don't Like Mondays. Like, that's I'm not impressed, bro.
No, wow, there we go.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of it. Where else do I know that name from?
Oh, it's because he's became later known for his benefit work, including co-writing the charity single "Do They Know It's Christmas" for famine relief and organizing Live Aid, a huge benefit concert.
There it is.
Oh,
Right. Okay.
You know, if you just Google Bob Geldof, like one of the top 3 results is how did Bob Geldof get so rich? Like everyone's like, that's one of the most common questions about it. Like, how the fuck does this guy have a career? Jesus.
all right. I thought you were talking about it, the Google images that pop up immediately.
Oh no, the images are not great either.
And probably not totally coincidentally. So Live Aid is this huge benefit concert, right, that happened. We've probably all seen videos of it. The follow-up benefit concert titled Live 8, which was actually 10 concerts around the world in different cities, was the next and last time all 4 members of Pink Floyd ever played together after this tour.
Okay.
Was that recently, like within the last 20 years?
Yeah, it was about 20 years ago.
Okay. Okay.
And they did a show in Philly.
Yeah, right. That's why I know. Okay. Yeah.
But Pink Floyd was playing in London, and they played like a 20-minute set, and that was it. That's the last time they've ever been on stage. The next time after this and the last time.
They just did Echoes and that's it.
So the movie is, I would say, the least interesting to me of the 3 pieces. I'll just admit that. But it is interesting. In some cases, the live action sequences track the pre-existing drawings from the live show. And there is, one of the things that's interesting about the movie is it's kind of psychedelic in the sense of how they mix animation with live action. I think it was an early example of that. It's years before Roger Rabbit or whatever. But it does some cool stuff with like blending those 2 concepts. And again, some of the live action shots were recreated directly from these drawings. Like, for instance, the scene in Another Brick in the Wall Part 2 where the kids are like being fed on a conveyor belt into the meat grinder. You know, that started as a drawing, as a cartoon, and then they like filmed a version of it for the movie.
They didn't do it the other way around where they actually fed the children in a meat grinder and then drew it.
It's the only way. For some bizarre reason, I guess I kind of understand it. They went back in and tweaked the songs extensively for the soundtrack to the movie, alternately remixing, shortening the songs, fully re-recording things, just re-recording vocals with Bob Geldof singing, who's much worse than Roger Waters, adding in other songs from the Roger Waters catalog, including the one that got left off, things like that. Or there's like a song called When the Tigers Broke Free that appears on the next Pink Floyd record, which at that point we're now officially into Roger Waters' solo project territory. Anyway, the movie's weird. It's unsettling. It's kind of psychedelic, but it did gross $22 million. It was a success.
Jesus.
Not bad. Not bad.
I do remember watching that in either late high school or early college and drug assisted and being, mind blown. But as a separate entity, it's a little weird. I do think it helps though close the loop on the narrative, and it paints the picture. I think the weird Nazi scene that I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit, or at least that part, the fascist part of the album, I think was very jarring, but it does paint an interesting picture of what they were trying to get across.
Yeah, like when Bob Geldof like shaves his head and eyebrows and everything, he looks fucking weird. It's disconcerting.
It's got some very memorable images in it, both in the live action and in the animation. So I will certainly give it that. But it's kind of a tough watch, and it kind of is attempting to blend the line between a soundtrack and not a concert movie, because there's not footage of a band playing, but it's like it's a weird hybrid of a film that Well,
and it's also, I think, Adam, you mentioned this earlier, that it came out so long after the album. I mean, it's impossible to time it, to put all that together so that it comes out with the record, but it had to have lost a little bit of its shine, I think, a few years later, although maybe guess not if it sold or made $20 million.
It did well. It's considered to have done well. So let's just follow up with where Pink Floyd ends up, and then we're going to talk about some songs. Roger Waters and David Gilmour continue to be at odds with each other going into the next album cycle, unsurprisingly. Now Rick Wright's officially out of the band. This culminates in Waters leaving Gilmour's name off the credits entirely, such that many consider The Final Cut, which is the next Pink Floyd album in name, to be the real first Roger Waters solo album. It definitely sounds like that to me, by the way. But that said, it sold and was reviewed pretty well at the time. So it has the Pink Floyd name on it, but Gilmour's name is not in the credits. I think maybe legally he fought to get it back in there later. I'm not 100% sure, but it was pretty acrimonious. And what followed from there was Roger Waters quitting the group in a huff, then a lengthy legal battle to determine if Gilmour and Nick Mason could continue using the Pink Floyd name, which eventually they could. As soon as they did that, they added Rick Wright back in.
Boosh.
And they released a couple more albums through the 80s and 90s, including their most successful single of that era, Momentary Lapse of Reason. It had a minor hit single that was called Learning to Fly, but certainly nothing as good as the previous Pink Floyd material. And like I said, the band stayed acrimonious through all the decades. They only briefly reunited for the charity event I mentioned. The 20-minute set, since you asked, Tom, was Breathe, including Breathe Reprise, Money, Wish You Were Here, and then closing with Comfortably Numb.
That's a good set.
Pretty solid. I mean, I would have been excited to see that, yeah.
They didn't do Waiting for the Worms in that set anywhere.
Roger was like, let's do the trial for the entire period.
Oh, God.
Yeah. I got this gigantic asshole puppet that I'm just going to go out like.
So Roger Waters has mostly carried on the legacy of the group. He has staged several massive tours, including a reprise of the Wall tour around 2010. The others have also toured in various incarnations on a much smaller scale. But Rick Wright unfortunately died in 2008 at the age of 65 from lung cancer, making any more reunions of this classic lineup impossible. And that is where we leave the story of The Wall. Shall we get into some of these songs, boyos?
Well, now that we're feeling so good, let's get into this happy, feel-good music. Yeah.
First song on that second half of the album is called
The reason I bought a fretless bass was this song. And this is the first thing that I played when I had my fretless bass. I was like, yeah. Boo, doo, 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 doo. It's fucking great.
That's awesome.
I think it's a good example on that bass where later in the song, it actually kind of sounds like it's crying out.
Yeah.
Like it's wailing a little bit. They do support the narrative themes musically in a really cool way.
Yeah. I got to give a big hats off to Nick Mason. I think his beat on this song is really nice. And it's super simple. It's just a little off kilter. It's not showy or anything like that, but it's not what you would expect. It's certainly not like, bass on the 2 and 4 or something like that, or, bass on the 1 and 3 and snare on the 2 and 4. It's like, it's not a boom cha beat. It's a little off kilter and kind of cool. He doesn't get a lot of time to shine on this album, but I thought this was one of the times that he sounded particularly good.
So I never heard this before. Maybe I'm foolish and you guys all knew about this, but the guitar line underpinning the solo is the Another Brick in the Wall melody.
Oh, do, yeah.
Yeah. So that's the Worms theme, right? That's like I call that the Worms motif. Like it comes up again a lot on this part of the album where it's like represents the childhood trauma coming back to you.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Fair enough. I guess I just never fully connected those dots, but I also love, again, I think they use sound effects to great effect here. The plane taking off as the solo kicking in is really cool.
I thought that was a Hammond organ because you can, if you have, again, that Leslie speaker going, you lay your arms on both of the keyboards at the lower register and slowly start working your way up, and it goes, it almost sounds like a plane. Can you confirm whether or not it was a plane sound effect or the Hammond?
We can look at the credits, but you guys...
Come on, Rob, how can you come so unprepared to this?
Seriously.
This 3-second sub part of a song, because I had actually made a note that, again, how much I love the Hammond organ. That is one of those cool things where you can create drama by literally taking your forearms and placing them on the lower notes, and you just get this grinding, screeching sound.
It is Rick Wright playing Hammond organ on this track.
Nice.
Yeah, but it could be. There's also an additional credit of James Guthrie playing the handheld power drill.
I saw that. What the hell?
You know what? Forget it. I'm wrong. Power drill all the way for 400 hours.
Rob, I think this is another example of great vocal performance from Waters, especially towards the end when he's belting at the high.
Well, they switch. This is where they use the vocal switch because Gilmour in the beginning, and then it switches to Waters for the deranged part.
Okay, yeah, it's really that ending part that just I think it's top notch. Yeah.
The hey you out there on the wall. The breaking bubbles in the hall line.
I had an alternate tweet that was, "Hey No! Try writing a song you can sing! Because he's just, and I know that's part of the thing, the drama is that he is just absolutely,
It's just like, it's solid.
he's belting.
All right, let's move on to Is There Anybody Out There?
So, kind of a nothing of a song, but I love the fact that whatever setting they had for the echoes sounds makes an appearance here. There's a little bit of the echoes like dolphin sound
weird.
going on in this one. They're like,
I think it's great vocal production. I agree it's just an interstitial song. It's like barely a song. But the acoustic guitar really shines throughout this record, right? In a way that I don't think it gets as much airtime in other Pink Floyd stuff.
absolutely.
Yeah, well, because everything gets focused around the solos and a lot of the electric rhythm guitar, but there's so much great acoustic. I agree with that.
Yeah. Well recorded acoustic too. Like it just sounds really nice. And like I said, I think that might be, I don't know if they're still using the nylon strings on this one, but it has a very, very rich sound to it
Okay.
on this album. I fucking love this song. Absolutely. Cannot get enough of this song. And this is my theory on this song. You know how at the beginning there's like the TV playing and then there's the guy who says, shut up. And he's like, I got a little black book with me poems in. And then they start singing and that's the opening line. My headcanon has always been like, actually the entire song in reality is just Roger Waters ranting like a fucking lunatic in a hotel room, but he thinks that he sounds like this beautiful song with piano backing it, but it's just him actually ranting and going crazy over it.
I like that.
Yeah. I'm also willing to call this my favorite song of the entire record. It's definitely the start of the second half. It's a personal favorite. I think it's another example where Roger Waters' vocal delivery does a good amount of the work in conveying the emotion. I mean, I also think the arrangement is really nice. Rick Wright, I'm pretty sure, played the piano here, and it's got a nice arrangement to it. It's got like a sadness, an understated Baroque grandeur to it, if you will. Like he makes a meal out of a fairly simple quarter pattern, but I also think Roger Waters' delivery is selling it for me.
And I think it's needed too at this point in the album. I think you need a little bit of feel, and it's only so dark you can take it. And not that it's super peppy or poppy or anything, but it's a break from certainly what ends up being a bit of a death march.
All the weirdness.
Yeah. The lines, the obligatory Hendrix perm and the inevitable pinhole burns that are delivered right next to each other. I don't know how he makes that sound so not clunky, but it actually works really well in the way that the album actually delivers it. And there's one more thing I just want to call out, because like if I was like doing this song in karaoke, there's one part that is like absolutely canon and must be included, and that is right after he says, "Ooh, babe, when I pick up the phone," and the TV in the background goes, "Surprise, surprise, surprise. There'll be nobody home." It's so perfect. It's so good.
I learned this song on piano and I sing it sometimes. It's not an easy song to sing. It's rangy. It takes some different melodic directions, and something about that delivery is quite hard to recreate. And I wanted to mention too, because we haven't gotten like too deep into musical nerdery yet, the chord pattern does have the classic 4 major to 4 minor shift, which is just really a pro move. It's just great.
It is beautiful. Yeah. I know the exact chord you're talking about. And yeah, everybody knows it's like, when I pick up, dun, dun, there'll be nobody home. Yeah, it's fucking beautiful.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, really lovely. Okay. Oh, you know what? One more thing. You mentioned the Hendrix perm, and I did hear an interview with Roger Waters where he was saying, well, yeah, clearly that references Syd Barrett, because there was this time like from 10 years before where all the rock stars wanted to look like Jimi Hendrix. Syd Barrett was one of those guys. He was making fun of it, but then the other person he mentioned in that same breath was Eric Clapton. He's definitely disdaining Eric Clapton.
Good. Way to go. I'm liking Roger Waters even more.
All right, let's move it on. I'm going to pull these two together. Vera Lynn is an old-timey singer who you might know as the person singing "We'll Meet Again, Don't Know Where, Don't Know When," which I know mostly from like the final sequence in Doctor Strangelove. But that's who he's talking about here.
Okay.
Okay. I didn't put that together.
It is a very skippable song, though.
Yeah, this and Bring the Boys Back Home feel like padding to me, but there is that one absolutely perfect like violin stab that happens at the beginning. Does anybody remember Vera Lynn? Does anyone remember how? Yeah, And you get this like violins. It's so off-putting because it's not a note even. It's just, yeah, it's beautiful.
Here's my complaint, because yes, Vera, these are weaker songs. They're barely songs, is what I would say. I don't mind having interstitial tracks though, but my complaint would be that Vera accomplishes the same thing that Nobody Home did much, much better.
Yeah.
In terms of like vibe and placement in the narrative.
Agreed. And Bring the Boys Back Home. I'm imagining like all the other guys just like listening to him deliver that vocal take in the booth and be like, what the fuck is he doing in there?
There is a funny mix there of classic military parade choir with Roger just singing derangedly over top. I mean, I can't say I like it exactly, but it's a hell of a wake-up call when that thing kicks in. Yeah.
The only defense I can make of some of this is that it's meant to reflect chaos and disorder that he's feeling, but you can get that point across, and I think in a more minimal, effective dose kind of way.
Yeah. And anybody who knows the album is just like, can we just get the fucking Comfortably Numb? Jesus Christ. Like, come on. We know what's coming, man. Give it to me. Give me that sweet, sweet juice.
Again, well, my quick note here on this one is, again, having never heard this before, that thing that they do where at the end of Bring the Boys Back Home, they pick out a bunch of the prior pieces and sound effects from the rest of the album. So you do hear the, no, do it again, and a bunch of other things. So that was an interesting culmination of, I guess, like all of the trauma from beforehand. So that was kind of a cool callback that I dug, but the song overall is just it's a little odd.
I also like how there's like somebody knocking in the door going, time to go. And it's like, you're literally losing your fucking mind. And somebody's like, you gotta be on stage like right now, man. Can we like,
you gotta be right. yeah, that's great. Yeah.
And this is where the movie certainly helped bring these threads together, because this is the moment when he's kind of like ODing in the hotel room.
Okay.
And the stage manager is saying, you need to be on right now. And so they bring in a doctor to give him whatever drugs he needs to get the performance done.
Yeah.
Is the premise of Comfortably Numb, right?
Even though Roger Waters was sober at the time that he was writing all this, yes.
Right. He's thinking partially about Syd Barrett, though, because there were these stories when Syd Barrett was losing it, and it was partially maybe related to drugs like LSD, but it sounds like it was more of a induced schizophrenia kind of situation. I remember reading this story where they had some television performance, and Syd Barrett would stand up there with a guitar, and then he just like, they'd say play, and then he just wouldn't play. And then they'd cut, and then he'd be playing the song. And like they couldn't get him to do like what he was supposed to do.
Well, I did see that Roger Waters actually did need to get some kind of injection to play a show, but it wasn't quite the way it's portrayed in the movie. But that did happen to him, where it was sort of, okay, you don't have it tonight, but you got to have it. So, and I think it happened in Philadelphia. He refers to some sketchy doctor giving him a shot for hepatitis or something.
Oh, that was Phil's dad too?
Full circle, baby.
Very good.
Let's play a clip. The contrast between the minor verses and the uplifting, dreamy, cloud level choruses is perfect. That's what makes it work. That's what makes the chorus work. That's what makes the solo hit so hard.
I think I just noticed for the first time this week, in the beginning of the first verse, there's panned left and right these little single note guitar descending slides like pew, 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 pew. And it's like, it's so perfect for like, I'm super fucked up, and like that's kind of how you sort of perceive the world in sounds,
Yes, I hear it now.
Very, very tasty. Yeah.
That made me think of another spot. I know people will complain, I'm sure, in our comment thread about how this album is excessive in concept and in size, and maybe they're not wrong, but they are also good at being restrained. And the moment that comes to my mind is in the second verse when he says, there'll be no more But I think that a lesser band would have punched those ahs so much louder in your ear with both production and volume to give you more of a shock. And instead, with the way they do it, it feels like it's off in the distance. Again, like an echo somewhere in your mind. And I think that's just a very...
Right, like it's not really a lyric, but your mind like adds that into the lyric, the vocal track.
And those ahs are not delivered softly, though. They're aggressive and shouted, but it's a volume thing, like you said, you know what I mean? Like you could have a scream, but the actual layer of the volume is down, and that's what it is. Yeah, that's cool, man.
I feel like this is the best contrast of Waters' more abrasive voice and Gilmore's more soothing voice happens in this one. And I will say they are possibly my favorite harmonies to sing. Just the, when I was a child, I Had a Fever harmony that they do there. It's flawless. And the fact that it is Gilmore on Gilmore, it gives it that ethereal sound, the same voice, mixing together just sounds good. And then to get into the guitar solo. And the fact that this is like maybe one of the greatest guitar solos of all time, and like any one of us could learn it in 36 hours if we wanted to, because he's not doing anything that's like technically complex. It's all just like perfect,
It's all just feel, man. Yeah, there's nothing challenging about the notes, really.
No, it's just, we would also do a very shitty version of it, but I could hit all of these notes if you gave me 36 hours.
No, I get what you're saying, but but it's, you're right. It's not about, he's not showy. He's just very solid melodically. Yeah, I mean, I also want to compliment the lyrics here. I think these chorus lyrics, they've always stuck out to me as just being so evocative and good. The distant ship smoke on the horizon. I caught a fleeting glimpse. Yeah, all these lines.
Yeah, you're only coming through in waves.
The child has grown, the dream is gone, which I feel like we say sometimes as a little bit of a joke to each other, or maybe Phil says that sometimes. But I think they're just really terrific rock lyrics. They really get a feeling across. I even also like in the first chorus, which I love how the first chorus is different lyrically. You would not understand, this is not how I am. I like when they break the fourth wall like that.
Yeah.
I mean, these songs are iconic and legendary for a reason. It sounds sometimes cliche to sweat a song like this, but I mean, there's a reason it endures. Yeah, it's killer.
I saw David Gilmour 2 years ago in LA, and he closed with this, and it was epic.
What else could you follow after you did this, right? There's nothing else to play after this.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Good point.
And yet, it's sandwiched in the middle of the side of the album.
Well, and we talked about how this was a cast off from Gilmour's solo record, which it's not like he didn't believe in it, but he just didn't have enough time to develop it. The session players had gone home or whatever, and he was just like, I'll use it again later. And so as a result, I heard that Gilmour definitely, it sounds like he had the most input on this song, and that him and Roger Waters fought quite a lot about how to make it big. And Waters wanted everything to be big and orchestral, and Gilmour favored a more stripped down approach, and they kind of found this compromise of contrasting parts. But yeah, it's iconic for a reason, of course.
Well, I can see why this song might not work in demo form, or why it would feel like, because there's so much orchestral string sections happening, and I'm sure because we know how great it is now, if you play it on acoustic by yourself, it sounds good because you're anchored to it. But I can see why there'd be some hesitation without this being fully realized to know that it's going to work.
Yeah, I totally get it. All right, let's get into the last side of this behemoth. We're going to start with...
Let's do it.
We're going to start with two songs together. The Show Must Go On into In the Flesh without a question mark.
Great. I love this song. I think it's a really good song.
They hit the Supertramp chord at the 40-second mark. It's so good. All I could think of
Supertramp chord?
if you hear it, if you listen to it, you'll say, "Oh yeah, it's from a Supertramp song." There's just this
Yeah, I think it's cool. I think it fits exactly where it should be in the album. I think it's a nice follow-up. This is I guess what would be side 4 opener in album form.
Correct.
I think it's cool.
And it's a minute 36. So like they do what they need to do and they get out. But it's cool.
This is what I want out of my interstitial tune. And it ends on this big note. It's a little sonically a little different, but it gets in and gets out.
And then you got In the Flesh, which is sonically not any different than the original In the Flesh with the question mark. And I always picture doing karaoke, and you get up there and start singing, and you realize you get in the flesh without the question mark, and you start getting to some of these lines. You're like, oh, fuck.
Oh, crap. I got to use a bunch of racial slurs. Buckle up, people.
First century versions of the shows, Roger Waters comes out in full fascist regalia. And look, I'm not doubting that this is satire, but it is extremely heavy-handed, and I think it's just in poor taste. Like, I just think he went so over the top to get his point across. He could have been a lot less inflammatory with the lyrics. And, I guess what I would argue specifically is that Run Like Hell gets across the derangement and the you should be scared element very effectively.
Like the paranoia.
I don't think you need this. Certainly you don't need these lyrics.
I actually think Waiting for the Worms does it even better, where they're like, waiting to fire the oven, to smash in their windows and kick in their doors. Like, that's much more of that is about as far as you need to go. You don't need to have an entire song that is just like, oh yeah, let me talk about how much I hate all these different groups.
Well, and it's such a U-turn, and I understand this idea that the fascist motif comes from when you're in isolation and you start to, I get all that part of it. But it seemed like such a left turn that, I don't know, and I guess maybe it's connecting back to the World War II piece with his dad. Like his dad was killed by Nazis maybe, but it did feel a little heavy-handed, and it's not like woke bullshit either to feel a little bit cringed by it. Like it really felt a little bit unnecessary.
On the plus side, after Clapton heard this song, he's like, can I work on your next album with you?
Oh my God. All right, let's move on to Run Like Hell.
Yes, we did. Yeah, man. You sang this.
No, we had to switch it because the lines kind of overlap. So you would sing the first line, I would sing the second line. Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
And I'm pretty sure we did it because Phil bought a delay pedal. And I was like, I got to use this motherfucker. I spent $80 on this thing.
I spent $35 on this thing. We need to use it. What are we going to do?
This is a tough song to sing. Did you drop it down a couple notches?
No, we were not that sophisticated. We just sung it poorly.
No, I think we just shrieked through it, and it was awful.
It's an iconic guitar sound. The delay is top shelf. I love it. I know some people will say it sounds like a car commercial, and they're not wrong, but you're missing the point. It's a cool song. And I want to tell you something I noticed this week musically. They hit a key change coming out of the intro. I guess you knew that because you played the song, but they dropped from D major to D minor. Very hip.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
Yeah, and the song just moves. Like, you've called a song Run Like Hell, it's got to move. And this song really moves. And it's, again, so simple. The bass is like, boom, 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 boom. It's so easy.
And again, Gilmour with that rhythm. I'm not just talking about the intro chords, which are iconic sounding, but also how he's using that delay. There's just dunk, 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 dunk.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. This one, it's another one of those ones that stands out where you're just like, well, this completely separated from any story of The Wall. This song just works on its own, independently.
Correct. Yeah. Well, that's why it's a single. I also noticed, I thought the synth got a little time to shine here. Rick Wright synth solo reminds me of like the Bernie Worrell stuff on Stop Making Sense.
Yeah, totally.
Which is very cool. I think I think they're both using the same type of synthesizer, a Prophet 5.
A little weird, yeah, in a good way.
Nice.
So I read that in the movie, the director hired an actual gang of skinheads for realism. And,
Jesus.
And the idea is that Pink, the rock star, whips the mob into violence and they destroy a diner or whatever. And he said it was very touch and go on the set. I was like, no shit.
How do the skinheads have like an agent that you have to go through? Like, how do you broker that deal?
Let's finish out the record. We're just going to lump all the last 4 songs together. Waiting for the Worms, Stop, The Trial, and then Outside the Wall.
Honestly, I think conceptually the idea of the trial, breaking down the wall, outside the wall, I get all that. And I think the last track resolves fairly well for me, but I think it's a little bit of a mess. The trial is too weird. It's too goofy. It's too, I don't know, whimsical almost. It's just...
Yeah. Well, let's start at the top. I do think it descends into the worst track, which is The Trial. I'll just call that the low point. It's an easy one. I like Waiting for the Worms musically. I think it's cool and heavy, and the waiting part, it's almost heavy metal-esque. Like, I'm kind of into that. I don't need a double down of talking about The Final Solution and Ovens. Like Tom said, I think certainly once would have been enough. Zero.
Right.
Yeah. Can't believe they didn't release this as a single. Yeah. I also like how he makes Gilmour sing some of the lines about, like, send our colored cousin. So he's like, you're in this with me too. I'm not the only one who's saying horrible shit on tape here, right? You got to
when we get
your hands dirty too. It's
like,
you got to kill to get into the game.
Luckily, Roger Waters has never for even 1 second walked any of this back. Look, the truth is, I personally don't think that Roger Waters has hate in his heart. I mean, what the fuck do I know? But I don't think that. I think he's a bully, and an asshole that runs his mouth all the time and refuses to back down on anything or even acknowledge the feelings of others. That's what I think he ran roughshod over here.
I know I liked him for a reason. Yeah, and then after we come out of Waiting for the Worms and we get real theatrical with Stop, which actually is pretty nice piano. Okay. I think it actually is the shortest song in the entirety of the Pink Floyd catalog at 30 seconds, which makes sense. And then it goes right into The Trial, which I like the orchestration on The Trial. The tubas do sound like a fat guy kind of walking out, when the judge comes,
The band does smartly sit out like half of this one, though.
Yeah. I just like, though, and I know that this is not directly autobiographical about Roger Waters, but like it's part of just his entire mentality that he's like, you know what I did wrong? I just felt too much. Just had too many feelings.
Too much human feeling.
Like, I don't know if that's the only problem that you had there, but okay.
I'm too much of an empath.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's also Roger doing all these different accents. Like he's doing a Scottish accent. And
I don't know what you're talking about.
He sounds like John Cleese. I actually thought that was John Cleese for the longest time doing the teacher.
Yeah, and I think that must be him doing the judge's voice also, maybe with the slowed down tape effect. I couldn't fully verify that. Our monster voice trick, but
it is, again, great that the judge is basically just like a talking butt and the mouth is the asshole. It's like that artist really knocked it out of the park. And this is the one that, like, absent the visuals, this really falls flat. But I imagine that with the puppets and everything on stage, this probably actually works pretty well.
Yeah, I get why this is sort of needed narratively for what he's trying to do, but I think it's underwritten. I like little parts of it. I like the crazy toys in the attic part. That's kind of nice break musically. But yeah, him doing a bunch of accents and this guy yelling defecate at me. I don't need that in my life.
Fair enough.
And then as we mentioned at the top, outside the wall, where the band would come out in front, play it on acoustic instruments, kind of give, let's say, another version of the wall theme, and it loops all the way back to the top of the album, like literally is cut in the middle and put at the top. So that's a really interesting little fun trick.
I like Outside the Wall. I found myself whistling this week.
You do? I was going to ask you guys what you think about, because again, coming in cold, I wasn't watching the track listing going, and this song came on and it ended, and then Spotify started playing some other Pink Floyd song, or something else, and I was like, wait, was that the end of the album? And I went back, and I don't know how I feel about it.
I kept thinking that they were teasing the or calling back to the Godfather theme, the like I was like, what is that? Like it sounded way familiar.
I think it's a pretty good theme, but the thing I'm gonna blame, and I don't mind ending with like a whimper, because I think that's a valid thing to do, but that's supposed to be after a killer track, and The Trial is just not that.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I think the concept of The Trial, even with some goofiness, with an entirely different musical backdrop, could have actually had some heft and some power to it, that the energy spent elsewhere on the album, I think if that were redirected towards the end
At The Trial. Yeah.
could have had something there. But
It comes across jokey. Like it does, you're kind of like, oh, this is camp.
Comic relief.
yeah.
Right, which makes it, that's weird, and it's weird that it's at the end. Easily the worst track on the entire record, in my opinion.
Easily the worst track.
Great spot for it.
It's like one of the longer tracks on the album, right? I think only Mother and Comfortably Numb are longer than The Trial.
5:19. Yeah.
It's also effectively a career closer.
Yeah, fair enough.
So I guess it did its job.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the time has finally come. We've gabbed enough. Shell,
Man.
we
Yeah.
recommend, nay, insist that you listen to this album before you die. I'm going to throw it first to Tom.
Well, so this is going to be a tough one for me because you all know my tried and true criteria, and that I assume that you have heard all of the singles off of the album. So do you really need to hear One of My Turns and Vera and The Show Must Go On? Normally I would say no, but I think you have to listen to this. Number one, because I fucking love Pink Floyd, and I do think that they're an incredibly important band. But I also do think that, as Rob said, in terms of concept albums, this is what a concept album should be. And it's not always going to be pretty. There's going to be some mess in there, but it's way better than fucking Tommy in terms of relating a story, and even just the songs in general are better. So 100%, the best-selling double album of all time.
Right.
You got to listen to it. It's 80 minutes of your life. It's really only like 10 to 12 minutes shy of some of those super bloated 90s CDs. So it's not even that much that you're asking.
All right, that's one yes vote from Tom. Let's go next to Adam.
Yeah, coming in. New listen. I would suggest that you first listen to this when you're 14 years old. Coming in as a grown man with a job and a wife and kids, setting aside 80 minutes multiple times in a week is a challenge, along with a compendium, very helpful, or at least some explainer notes. But yeah, this was a great experience. Putting all of these radio songs that I've heard my entire life in context really breathed new life into them. I've heard Comfortably Numb my whole life. Didn't really put it in the context of where it would fall into this story. Same thing with Hey You, Run Like Hell, all these songs within the context of this overarching story, they have new life, and I appreciate them even more now. So it's a big yes for me. This was a great experience, a great excuse to dive into this album.
Excellent. And here I was thinking we started this podcast to punish Adam, but we've turned out to...
Stockholm Syndrome, is that what they call it?
All right. Oh, that's a bit of foreshadowing, Alan. I'm going to talk about Stockholm Syndrome shortly, but let's hear your vote.
Yeah, I'll go back to what I said at the beginning of the last episode, which was that I feel like this is an experience, and it has its issues, has its problems, it peters out at the end. All that shit is still true, but if you listen to this and you don't feel something, or you don't feel your emotions being stirred in some way, then I don't know what to tell you. Maybe it's the 4th or 5th best Pink Floyd album. I don't really know. I'm not into all those rankings, but even if it is, it's still, I think, an incredible album, and I do think it's worth the listen.
Excellent. And I'll just add my thoughts. Yes, of course, it's a yes. This is such an important album, and it is a great album. I agree with everything that was already said. Tom, even by your criteria, I think there's so many great non-single cuts like Goodbye Blue Sky and Nobody Home. And not only that, but you do have to take in the concept to view it or hear it in the way that it was intended. And, in case it's not obvious, I am impressed with this logistically as much as anything. This is a hard amount of things to tame into a story, to put into a narrative, to put on tape with all these production values, all the stuff we talked about, not to mention to stage this crazy live show and to make a movie. So it is an impressive feat. And if I'm being honest with myself, I do think it's the second best Pink Floyd album in terms of its accomplishment and the strength of the songs themselves and the kind of the pristine nature of what they're able to do well as a band. That said, do I want to listen to it all the time? No, definitely not. I'm much more likely to turn on Animals or Metal, and you can tell from our conversation perhaps why. But it is an absolutely yes, must listen. Anyone who says this is outright bad, sorry, we can't be friends.
It's definitely not outright bad. I mean,
I'm sorry, I don't love you anymore.
There's plenty to shit on, and it was fertile ground, but
of course, yeah, I'm not perfect by a long shot. In the way that I think Dark Side is probably the single most perfect piece of musical art out there. It's not like that. It has many flaws, as we talked about, but it is absolutely essential. Great. Well, we're going to close this out, but I do have a little special treat before we select our homework for next week. I promised you stats from our first 250 episodes, and I have delivered them here.
Oh, man.
Think of it as yet another by the numbers for the real ones out there who are still listening. So I went deep this time, guys. I pulled these out in the form of questions for you. So you guys may know the answer, but I'm sure the audience doesn't. Of these 250 odd albums we've been going through, I have our pass rate here, the percentage that we as a team feel that you must hear. And I noticed that the audience sometimes complains that we don't like anything. Yet, I can tell you that I've been tracking this number from the very beginning, and it's only changed by a couple percentage points in nearly 5 years. So our pass rate as a team is 68%.
I was going to say 65.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right.
My question to you, though, because now what I've done is I've explored the individual voting records and potential biases of our complainer co-hosts here. And what I want to ask is, which complainer is the easiest yes? And separately, who among us most relishes giving a definitive no? In other words, take that same pass rate thinking of the episodes that you guys have voted on. Who has the highest rate of no votes? And conversely, the highest rate of yes votes.
Are they both on this call?
No, only one is on this call.
Okay.
I'm going to say the highest yes rate is Adam.
Correct. 72% pass.
Yes.
I was going to say that. That's also what we call the pushover award.
No.
To be fair, it's not that far from the average. And
Adam, I think that your thing is that whenever you host, you get so much empathy for the artist that you vote yes.
oh, we're getting there, Tom.
Okay.
We're getting there. I dug into exactly that, and I will reveal it shortly.
No.
And the hardest yes vote, I know you thought it was you, Tom, but you're actually in second place.
Is it Phil?
It's Marty.
Marty.
Has a 52% pass rate.
Wow.
Now, to be fair, Tom has voted on more than twice as many episodes as Marty, and he's sitting at 57%.
Okay.
But still.
I'm happy to be over 50-50 at least, you know.
That's good. Yeah.
The implication or the extrapolation, by the way, is that Marty is on track to only accept a grand total of 524 albums that you must hear before you die.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
The list probably should only be that big.
Well, Marty's got a bunch of other ones that would make nobody else's list on his list.
Next up, I decided to dive into what I'm calling 1001 Album Complaints Stockholm Syndrome. Does the host, the person on our team responsible for researching the album in any given week, are they more inclined to give the band a yes vote after learning about their struggles? Now, the short answer here is that yes, all but one of us has some of that bias. But let's first ask the question, who doesn't have any sympathy, even after hours of YouTube documentaries and self-serving memoirs? Who is the odd man out who is not affected by 1001 Album Complaints Stockholm Syndrome?
I think that's me.
It is Tom.
I think it's Tom.
You know why it's me?
Yeah.
Because whenever a really, really shitty album comes up, I always jump on doing it because I'm like, I want to fucking shit on this person.
Just tee off on it.
I think it's because your cold heart knows no sympathy. But no, you're right. I think you enjoy researching bad music the most, so we do try to funnel that over to you. And separately, who amongst us, and yes, they are on this call, is the most susceptible to Stockholm Syndrome? I'll give you the stat before we pick the name. This person, the pass rate jumps up to 87% when he hosts.
My guess is that it's you, Rob.
Incorrect.
It's you, Alan.
It is you, Alan.
Oh, no. Wait, 87%?
Oh, it's Alan.
Damn. And I've been trying to be more strict on my criteria. That's an unacceptable pass rate.
Seriously.
That's too high.
Only when you host, though. Only when you host.
Still, though.
Your global pass rate, let's see, your global pass rate is 68%, so right on average. Adam and I both are also significantly up in our, that we're softened up by doing the research as well. Mine jumps to 80%
Right.
from 66, and Adam's jumps up to 78%. So in both cases, actually mine jumps more than Adam's, so there's that. Okay, I have one.
Okay.
Wait, question. What is my pass rate on ones that I host? Because if I'm 57 total, am I even 50-50?
You know what? I misspoke. Everyone is softened up by it. You're just the least softened up by it.
Okay.
You bumped from 57% to 60%.
Okay, that's respectable.
Yes. So you are the least affected by so-called Stockholm Syndrome. And I have one more, which I think will be of interest to some of our listeners. We've been accused by a few folks of having a certain American bias, that we're somehow more accepting of art made in the good old US of A, like Bad Bunny. So to find out, I went through and coded every album as either US, UK, or other.
God damn, Rob.
Oh my God.
Wait, listening to us slob Pink Floyd for the last 3 hours isn't evidence enough?
This vote, of course, did not make it into the calculation, but everything else from all the past episodes did. So is there a 1001 Album Complaints US bias?
No, there is not.
No. In fact, I think it's the other way.
Incorrect.
Oh, all right.
Fuck you, Rob.
There is a bias, but it is less than 3 percentage points.
Okay.
We have a US pass rate of 70% and a UK pass rate of 67%. And keep in mind, there are others out there that are
Sure.
categorized as neither of those two. So it's pretty close, but yes, we do have a slight bias. Now, the question is, who amongst us is the most biased towards the US? Who is the most stubbornly American among us? And yes, they are on this call.
I think it's you, Rob.
Incorrect. It's Alan again.
Oh, God damn it, Alan.
You have a
the US.
70% pass rate on US records versus your 58% pass rate on UK records.
Interesting. I'm going to do some introspection on this.
Who do you think is the least biased across that divide at all?
Marty.
It's actually you, Tom. There's a less than 1 point difference in your US versus UK voting record. Good job.
All right. Am I more US
Wow.
than UK, at least? Please give me that.
Yeah, I believe you are more US than UK.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. And just know that.
No, sorry, I take it back. You're a point up on UK.
Really? Oh, man. I got to shoot more guns. That's going to.
It's less than a percentage point. I know. You're going to laugh. The hardest part of this was writing these Excel formulas, by the way. It wasn't that easy.
I'm mind blown that you did that.
Copilot will do it for you now, man. Don't worry.
And lastly, fun fact, Phil is somehow biased towards UK albums, bucking the trend in his personal voting record.
Yeah.
Nice. All right.
So let the record show that is what's going on. We'll continue to track these fun stats for all you number nerds out there. But now I need to kick things over to Tom to get our homework for next week. Let's make it a short one, Tom.
Alrighty, yes, I have the Albinator here. It has been sitting in the corner, crying and desperately asking me to get it some kind of therapy or psychotropic meds or something like that. I have denied it. Said, man up, fucking stiff upper lip. Come on over here and give me an album. So, without any further ado, drum roll, please. We will be listening to another just really easygoing fella here. The artist is Eminem, and the album is the Slim Shady LP. No controversies there either.
Damn.
So this one will just
No lyrical content to walk back.
no, not at all. This is gonna be fun ride, fun ride.
Yeah, I can't wait to pop that on in the car, driving the family around.
The kids on the way to school.
All right. It's been a long evening for us here at 1001 Album Complaints. Thank you again for celebrating our 250th celebration episode with us. We hope you enjoyed the story of Pink Floyd's The Wall and us fawning over it and complaining about it both. And we're going to close things out and move on to Eminem. So join us next week for that one. For everyone here at the show, I have been Rob.
I've been Tom.
I'm Alan.
And I'm Adam.
Baboosh. Hey, Boosh.